All right, 6:30 here, Thursday evening, and we're live on our social media streaming platforms. If you've been paying attention to this and you wanted to join in, we welcome you to Buying Your First Home, How to Get a Mortgage and Understand the Home Buying Process. My name is Bruce Klein, and I'm joined by my friend Melanie Hill Anderson, a realtor here in the DFW area. And basically, what we're going to do here over the next 30, 45 minutes is go through the steps. Basically, those questions you may have about, how do I do this? What are the steps I take? Do I have to find the realtor? Do I go find a house? And then, what do I do? So we want to answer those questions for you. But before we get started, go ahead. If you want to introduce yourself, Melanie, say a few words. There you are.
Hey everybody, Melanie Hill Anderson with Coldwell Banker Apex Realtors. Thank you so much for joining us live tonight. Bruce and I are here to be a resource for you and answer all your questions and help make this process simple and easy. So please let us know how we can help you. Now, in the future, we would love to meet with you personally and answer more questions since we may not have time to get them all answered tonight.
Great. And yes, like I said, my goal is to go through this pretty quickly because you'll be able to watch this. We're going to put this on our YouTube channels, and we'll have some snippets coming out where you guys can watch this in your own time and rewind it and, oh, what was that again? But if you want to grab some notes and maybe a pen and paper, take some quick notes here, you can reach Melanie at melaniehillrealtor@gmail.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
melaniehillrealtor@gmail.com. You can reach me at bruce.klein, Cline, at ozlending.com. So with that, let's go ahead and get started here. Buying your first home. And here's kind of what we're going to go over. We're going to talk about here's our goals. We're going to learn the advantages of owning a home. We're going to talk about exploring the different loan programs. You've heard FHA, VA, USDA, conventional. We'll talk a little bit about what those are. And when that time is right, and I know more about your situation, we will have a conversation about which loan program is best for you and why that program is best for your situation. We're going to discuss the cost of being a homeowner. We're going to talk about how your credit scores affect the options, your loan options, and how it affects your pricing and your pre-approval. We'll talk about the pre-approval process. And then, like Melanie said, we'll answer any questions you may have. And I think you can type some in too if you want, and we'll get to those as well. But we're definitely going to give you some time here at the end to ask questions. All right. So why buy instead of rent? A lot of people think I can't buy, it's going to cost me. It's 20% down. Who's got that much money? First of all, we're not talking, that's a myth. You don't have to have 20% down, okay? There's lots of ways to get into a home with very, very little down, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's talk about why it's a wise investment. You're renting now, and all that money you're spending, you don't get to take any of that with you when you leave, right? So once you make that investment into a home and you're making payments on that, a portion of that payment, while that home equity is going up, while that price is increasing, because if you notice, home prices keep going up, right? So while you're there paying your mortgage down, the value of the home is increasing. And that difference in there becomes your equity. You think of your home like a piggy bank, that home is saving money for you, which is not happening for you when you rent. And that's why I'm pretty passionate about trying to help people get into homes. Like I said, they're going to increase in value, and you're going to build that equity over time. Your interest paid, you've talked to your CPA about that, but interest paid on the home is tax deductible. So when you get ready to file your taxes, you'll have some write-offs there. You get to personalize your home, make it your own. A lot of times you're renting, if you want to paint it this way or do anything to the floors or whatever, you're going to have to put it back just like it was, or they're going to charge you for that. And maybe your family's going to be growing, maybe kids, or you're planning on having children. You want to make room for a growing family. And a starter home, a new home, that entry-level home, it's a great way to start building your personal wealth. You buy that home, 3 to 5 years, you built some equity. Now you can pull out equity from that, buy your next home. When you drive around town, I remember many years ago, I'm driving around seeing these big homes. I'm like, what do these people do who live in these homes? Well, most of these people didn't start in those homes. They started in the starter home, their 3 bedroom. And as they built equity and they got a better job or maybe an increase in their income, they moved up to those homes. So that's what you want to do. We'll talk about a starter home and getting you into that, getting you through those steps. So how do you begin? And this is really the crux of the conversation here. What do I need to do? It's really, as it says here, as easy as one, two, three. You find your home team of experts. That's what Mel and I are here to talk to you about. We want to be that sounding board for you. We want to help guide you through it, so it's not this big scary thing. How do I do it? Oh, it's going to hurt my credit. Oh, is it a hard credit pull? All those things, all those questions you're all going to have. We're going to answer that for you and walk you through this. So if you get with someone like Melanie who knows the area, I can't tell you how important it is to have a seasoned real estate agent who knows the area, knows the comps in that area, how much you need to offer for that home, especially in a market where maybe it's going to be several offers on a home. You want to have a professional in your corner who can give you the right advice. And so that's what you do when you sit with Melanie. You say, "I'm looking for this kind of home. I'm looking in this area," and then you contact me, and I'm going to help you complete the pre-approval process. You'll submit that loan application. I'll collect all the necessary documentation. I'll let you know what those are, and depending on the type of loan, those things can change. But basically, it's going to be 30 days of pay stubs. It's going to be a bank statement. It might be your tax returns. It doesn't have to be. It depends on the loan type. We're going to look at your W-2s or your 1099s, depending on what kind of job you're in for the last 2 years. Let's say you just started a new job. Maybe you're out of school. We're going to get an offer letter. And that offer letter, many times, is all we'll need to help you get pre-approved. And then once we've got you pre-approved, here it says you consult with, you're going to go back to Melanie now, right? You're going to go back to her and say, okay, I've been pre-approved, and I'm going to look and try to get you approved for the maximum amount, even though you may not want to spend the maximum amount, and I don't recommend you spend the maximum amount. I want to see how much we can get you qualified for, right? So before you waste any time going out there shopping, and before Melanie's going to go out there and show you a home, we want to know how much you can qualify for. So that way, when you're out looking, you see this home, you're like, I love this home, but oh, you drive around the corner and there's another one and it's, 25,000 more. Well, we're already going to know, yes, you do qualify for that. Your payment will be this much more, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first steps. So let's talk about home buying 101, the basics of home ownership. And this is a big question that people have. What affects your the pre-approval? And your credit history, okay? The credit score and the credit history. When I take your loan, I will see your credit history. I'm going to see on there your debt ratio. If you've got certain credit cards and they're almost maxed out, that can lower your score. So we'll talk about that. I'll see your employment status, how long you've been on that job. I'm going to look at what that income is. I'll look at your pay stubs and your bank statement and make sure that matches up. We're going to look at the debt you have, your car payment, student loan debt, any of those debts, and then we're going to talk about down payment. All of those things combined, put that together, and that gives me a debt ratio for you that lets me know if you're going to qualify and how much you'll qualify for. So here's the importance of your credit history. What determines your credit scores? Take a look at this. The green line up here is new credit. Types of credit accounts for about 20% of your score. If you see how far that line goes over, it goes to 20%. The length of your credit history, about 15%, okay? Amounts that you owe, about 30%. And then if you see the biggest one here, it's 40% of that is your payment history. So one of the things I tell people often is there's a lot of things we can improve on your credit report to get your credit score better, but that payment history, we can't do anything about it. If you have late payments, those are going to really impact your score. And the only thing that fixes late payments is time. So pay the things on time, make sure you're paying your credit, all of your items on time, so your credit score will remain where it is. If you got some dings on there or you've got credit cards maxed out, we can help you there. I can show you. You don't have to go spend a lot of money, excuse me, with a credit repair company. There's things we can do to help you get there very quickly. Here's the importance of your credit history. Making a monthly payment on time indicates that you're likely to make a mortgage payment on time, right? Your credit score is a factor in the type of mortgage you'll qualify for. And that whether it's a government loan, the conventional loan, the credit score, once the credit score gets lower, it's going to go into a different type of program. It's still a great program. It may not be the most desirable program, but the FHA, the government designed many different options so people have an opportunity to buy. They don't want to, keep everybody out. So your credit score is going to determine the amount you pay for a down payment, how much you can borrow, and the interest rate that you're going to be offered. So it's really important, but I don't want you to be so concerned about your credit score that you don't look at buying a home. Because basically on some of these programs I'm going to talk about with down payment assistance, if you see here in the middle, some home buyers may be eligible for down payment assistance. Well, on most of these programs, you only need a 620 score, okay? And that's a fairly low credit score. But with that, the program has a fixed interest rate, and depending on if you want 2, 3, 4, or 5% assistance for your down payment and closing cost, that determines what that rate's going to be. So again, I don't want to get off track. These are things we'll talk about once we see what your credit looks like, what your credit score is, and I'll make all those recommendations. But down payment assistance is a great option for you, and there's several of those out there. But let me just say quickly, if you're doing a conventional loan and you've never been a homeowner, you only have to bring 3%. Okay, $100,000 home, that's $3,000, right? So when you start talking about $300,000 home, that's $9,000. So when you get down payment assistance coming in and you get 3% assistance, that $9,000 goes a long way to helping you get in that home. So, but you also have to count for, you see here the green, be prepared for closing costs. A lot of people, they look at, well, it's 6% interest rate and it's $300,000 loan. You figure out what your payment, but you don't think about the closing cost, the appraisal, what that's going to cost you out of pocket, the inspection. So that's again where she and I will talk to you about the cost of everything before you dive in. So how much can I afford? This is great. So Melanie, you might want to say something here, that people, if they don't know this and you're going to want to go out shopping for a home, they're going to be pretty disappointed, right? If you go out and they fall in love with a home and then you go to the lender and say, hey, we found this home, and they fell in love with it, and now I do the qualifying, then their income isn't where it needs to be. So
that's exactly right, Bruce. I've seen that happen before. And so I always advise my clients to speak with a mortgage professional. And when I say a mortgage professional, I again reiterate what Bruce said. You need somebody that is very experienced and educated in the market and knows all of these different programs out there so that they can get you the best possible loan for what it is that works the best for you. Because there's a lot of options out there, but you need somebody that knows about them so that they can match you correctly with the right one. But definitely talking to a mortgage person and knowing what you can afford and what you want to afford is definitely the first thing we want to do before we go falling in love with houses that you may or may not be able to afford. Maybe you can afford it, but you don't want to afford it.
right, or and you say, hey Bruce, I'm paying X amount for an apartment right now. I know maybe I'll spend a little bit more for a home, but I don't want to spend more than X amount. Okay. And that tells me a lot. Now I know what I have to work with, and I can kind of work backwards. And I'm going to factor in there things that maybe you don't think about: the property taxes, homeowners insurance. If you're not putting 20% down, which again, you don't have to put 20% down, but when you don't, you have to pay mortgage insurance. So that's another monthly payment, and we'll talk about that too. But basically, like it says here, I'm going to look at your credit history, to determine your debt to income ratio. So I'm looking at all the debt you have, whether it's student loan, car payment, credit card payments, and then I'm going to add in the payment for this home you're looking at to determine what your debt ratio is, right? So we want that to be 50% or less in most cases, sometimes 45%. But when I see your full credit history, that's how I determine that debt to income ratio. And here in the middle, it says that is anticipated total housing payment plus your existing debt payments divided by your gross income. So let's say you make $6,000 a month, you've got $3,000 a month, including the new house payment, your car payment, credit card payments. That's going to be, when you divide that, that's going to be a 50% ratio. And in most cases, that will work. So all programs are different. So it's important to, we get all that in there and I look at it all and then we'll determine which ones.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce, quick question. I've had some people ask me this before, and it's something you mentioned before. On the down payment assistance, are those amounts something that the buyer would have to repay, or is that like a gift type situation? How's that work?
That's a great question. There are some that are grants, okay? Those oftentimes may go quicker. They may be gone faster than others. But I would say the majority of them are going to be a 3-year forgivable. That's what we see in the majority of them. So most people are staying in their homes 5 to 7 years. So if you take down payment assistance and let's say you get $10,000 for your down payment assistance, once you've been in that home for 3 years, you don't owe any of that money anymore. But right now, since interest rates are a little bit higher, and this is a good question, we get this a lot. What if I want to refinance at home? What if next year rates drop from 6 and they drop back to 3.5%? Hey, I'm going to be calling you saying, you need to refinance that. I understand you have to pay that money back, but here's why I would still do it, because all they're doing is they're giving you that advance money to allow you to get into this home without coming out of pocket, right? So if you can lower your interest rate and maybe lower your payment $200 or $300 a month, even though you're paying that money back, you're not paying it out of pocket. You're going to pay it out of the equity. They put the equity. They put $10,000 into the home when you bought it, so you already have $10,000 equity there. You're just giving that back to them. That's all you're doing. You're going to give them that equity back, and now your equity. If it's 2 years from now, the equity, the home value's already increased. So, it's something we talk about because it depends on where you are, depends on what's happening in that area. It's the value going up enough that it makes sense. Listen, it always has to make sense. We're not going to do a loan. We're not going to buy a home. We're not going to refinance a home unless it makes sense. Okay. Did that answer your question?
That did. That's great information.
Okay. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I'll just breeze through this quickly. What is included in your mortgage payment? You can't just think, try to do the numbers. 5%, $300,000 home, my payment will come out like this. No, you have to remember, it's not just the principal and interest. You have to include property taxes. And in many places in Texas, it's about 2.3%. You can file homestead and get that lowered a little bit. Homeowners insurance. You're going to shop for homeowners insurance through your agent, and you're going to buy it 1 year up front at closing. So if it's $1,800 a year, that's going to be part of your closing costs. You're going to bring $1,800 to closing for that 1 year insurance. Plus you're going to put some in escrow, about 3 months. You'll put in escrow. So it could be $2,200 just for the taxes. And now that's going to be on your payment, the taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance, principal and interest. It's all in your payment, and it goes into an escrow account. And every year when your taxes and insurance are due, your mortgage loan servicer, the mortgage company, pays that on your behalf. So on FHA loans, you have to do it this way. And I recommend doing it. You never know what's going to happen. You have to put a new air conditioner in your house. Your transmission goes out on your car. You think you're saving money for taxes. All of a sudden, your property taxes are due in December, and you don't have $8,000 or $10,000 to go pay that. If you do it this way and let it come out of every monthly payment, you don't have to worry about that. So moving on, which loan type is right for you? As I mentioned, there's several types, and it really is going to depend on your credit situation. Many factors go into that. There's a lot of moving parts to loan. Credit score, debt to income ratio. Let's just talk about these first time. Conventional versus unconventional. You probably don't hear these terms a lot, but I'll just go over this quickly and show you what it is. Conventional loans are not government insured loans. And basically on these, they're what you hear Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac backed loans. They have a lower debt to income ratio threshold. So a lot of times, if you're buying a first home and you have a higher debt ratio, maybe lower credit, I'm not going to recommend conventional because it's going to be harder for you to get approved in that program. Whereas FHA is a government backed loan, makes it a bit easier for you to qualify on that. And as you see here also, the higher credit score, 680 and above. And really, I'd probably say 700. You want to be 700 or above. But again, don't let your credit score scare you from looking into this because, and let me just touch on this for just a second, your credit. If you think your score is too low, don't go and start paying things down, paying things off, because I'll just tell you, a lot of those things that you can pay off may actually hurt your score. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. The best thing to do, even if you don't think you're going to buy for 6 months to a year, is go ahead and get an application in. Let me see the full credit profile because I can make recommendations. I can do what's called a credit scenario where I can go in and change your loan balances. And when I do that, let's say you have a Kohl's credit card, for example, and you have $1,000 spending limit and you've got it charged up to $900. Okay. You only have 100, you have very little ratio in there. That is hurting your score, right? So what I'm going to ask you to do is pay that down to $300. Don't pay it off. Don't pay it to zero because that actually may not help you as much as what I'm telling you. Pay it to 30%. Pay it down to 300. Normally, in 30 to 45 days, you're going to get a new score. Probably 20 points or more better just by doing that. Keep those ratios at about 30%. The credit bureaus love that. That's going to increase your score. And when let's say you need to move, you found out your landlord is going to sell the home you're in, you've got 2 months. Well, you don't have 6 months to wait for your score to improve. But if you come to me and I look at this and I make these recommendations, if you pay it down to 300 and send me that new balance statement the next day, I can send that over to the credit bureau. And within 3 or 4 days, I'll have your new score. We don't have to wait 30 days, 45 days, 2 months to get that new score, which really is helpful. So that's only for you if you need a improvement with your score. But sometimes I'm going to recommend it. Let's say you've got a 650 score. Well, at 680, your pricing is going to be better. It's not going to cost you as much. In other words, you're not going to be penalized as much, have as much in fees as you would at a 680 versus 650. So if I see an easy way to fix that, I'm going to make that recommendation. Excuse me. All right. Conventional, don't worry about these loan limits. Just know that it's a fixed rate for the term. It's going to be a 30-year, most times 30-year term. The rate will be fixed. These are the FHA loans, unconventional loans. And they're FHA, they're VA, they're USDA. And then a lot of those state bond programs we were talking about, the state bond programs are those down payment assisted loan programs I was mentioning. You also have some of those in conventional loans. These government loan programs are great, especially if you have that lower credit score. The government has those to allow for folks who've had situations. Maybe it's medical. Maybe you've had to help your kids out, so your debt ratio's gotten messed up because you're helping them buy a car. There's all sorts of reasons, and the government understands that. And so we try to help folks in those situations. And now, which one is right for you? There's a lot of different options. And that's why when I get your loan application, I see your credit scores and I see what your ratios are, I'm going to make recommendations. I'm going to say, I might send you 3 or 4 different loan types. And then I'll say, look, if this is my loan, my child's loan, I would do this one, A or B. And here's why. And just really have it make sense for you to where it's in plain English and you understand that. And so, like I said here, by working with experienced folks who do this, we can help you select a loan that best suits your budget, which one is right for you, and go over, here's why this is right for you, here's why I recommend this one, here's why I don't recommend this one. Any questions so far? You all right? Doing okay?
All good over here.
All right. Home buying 101. Here's the basics. There's 6 basic steps. Step 1, like we mentioned in the beginning, complete the loan application. I've got on my phone, have an app, a mobile app, and it's so easy to use. You'll love it. And we can exchange documents right here in the app. You can sign the documents right here in the app. Once I get it, I'm going to pull it in. I'm going to ask you for some documents, income and asset documentation. And then once I get it all worked up, I'm going to get you a pre-approval letter. And I'm going to give that to Melanie, give it to you. And with that, you are ready to go shopping. Okay, now the pre-approval letter for you and your realtor, you guys will discuss your options. Melanie, talk a little bit about this right here. Once I've got them pre-approved, then what's gonna happen next?
Yeah, so that's where we start. Once you're pre-approved and we've talked about what range of home you are looking to shop in, we're also going to talk about what kind of home do you want? Do you need a large home? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Do you need to have a yard? Do you want a pool? Do you not want a pool? What area do you need to live in for work, for family? Are schools important? We'll go through all of the criteria that you're looking for. We can actually set up an online search for you so that you can see all of the homes that are available that meet your criteria. And you can look at those online before we go out and look at homes in person. That way you can kind of narrow things down because you can tell certain things online that that may help you narrow the process. I see things a lot more, so I'm always going to look at things with you, and I can kind of point out things because I look at these so much more often than you do. And stuff, but stay focused. Don't get discouraged because it can be a little daunting when you're going and looking at tons of homes. It can get a little overwhelming, but I'm always here for you. Bruce is always here for you. The team that you're working with is going to guide you through the process and answer all your questions along the way and help you make the best decisions for you and your family and your situation. But definitely most important thing is to always stay in touch with us and keep us posted on what's going on. And Bruce, I'm sure you're going to talk about this, but I just saw the always stay in contact and don't engage in large spending and obtain credit during this time.
Exactly.
I can tell you from not personal experience, but personal experience as a realtor, that is really important because you can miss out on a really good house if you are doing things without checking with your professionals along the way that can guide you to making the best decisions.
And
Bruce,
I will speak. I'll speak to that in just a minute. I just along those same lines. I know that there was a time in the past when I was a realtor, and just speak a little bit to this part about making a recommendation on how much they should offer for the home, because last year was very crazy. There was a buying frenzy, and your people are offering way over value and over the asking price. And I know my experience when I was in real estate, people are hesitant to do that. They're like, why are you telling me to pay more for that house? Are you trying to make more money? And it's like, no, this is not about my commission. It's about, if you really like this house, my recommendation is you need to pay this much, and here's why. Speak to that just a little bit and how you come to that conclusion.
Right. So one of the things that I always talk to my clients about is, especially when we're in a situation where we have multiple offers, which is currently still happening. It is not as crazy as it was before, but there are still low inventory, meaning we don't have enough houses for all of the buyers that are out there looking. And so sometimes it does get into a situation where you have multiple offers on a house. So the way that I guide my clients is when we're coming up with a number to offer, what number is most comfortable for you all so that you feel like if you don't if they don't choose you, you put everything on the table that you could and that you felt comfortable doing, and you are okay with not getting that house. So that's
Right.
kind of how I guide people through that process. And I'm a firm believer in the right house is going to find you at the right time.
I agree. I think so too. And sometimes you'll find out that maybe you missed out on a home, somebody outbid you, and you don't know exactly why, but you didn't get it. You're disappointed, and then 2 weeks later, you find this home, and you're grateful that the other one didn't work out. So that's what we
Right.
talk about. Don't get discouraged. So moving on, I know I'm going to get to that part you're talking about, but once you go under contract, once you've had your credit pulled, really, don't go out there and buy things. Don't add things to your credit. Don't get a new credit card. People want to start buying furniture.
Yeah,
You
don't
know,
go buy
they
all your new furniture just yet.
no, wait until you get the keys to that home and then go get all the furniture you want. But let's get you closed, get you in that home first. Step
Also,
four, you're going to go back and
don't
talk
switch
with,
jobs without talking to
uh,
people when you're getting in the process of getting a house.
I had it happen 2 days before closing one time.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they go, hey, we just did the final verification of employment and she's not working there anymore.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it happens. So
Right.
anyway, it's like we said, it's 6 steps. You work with the realtor. She's going to advise you, like just talking about, you're going to make that offer. All right. And once you go under contract, they're going to tell you how much the earnest money deposit is, that deposit that you're going to put down on that home. Usually it's around
Yeah.
1%. Step five, we're going to
Usually about
work with you to
1%.
get,
Yeah.
right. And then we're going to work with you to get the appraisal ordered and the property inspection. I'm going to gather any more documents that we need at this time. Usually going to order that homeowner's insurance. So we get a copy of that for the file. And then your loan is going to go in for final review with our underwriters. And then you get that step six. We get final approval. We get clear to close, and we send documents to the title company. That's where you're going to go sign, and the documents are waiting for you there at the title company. You sign those, and they give you the keys to your new home. So it's really do the loan application, get the documents sent to me. Let me get the pre-approval done. I get the pre-approval letter to you and to Melanie. You guys discuss what you want to buy. You go out and look for the home. You make the offer. You get the contract, and then we get you through underwriting and to closing. Really, not that much to it, and it can happen in 21 days, 30 days. It's not as crazy as it was last year, so it's happening a lot faster these days. But it really never takes more than 45 days, and right now it can easily be done in 21 days, really depending on the appraisal, how quick the appraiser can get out there. Um,
And hey, Bruce, you
so,
want to tell
yes,
them? I think a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, I've had clients ask me this before. They're like, "What's an appraisal, and why do we have to get that?"
um, that's a great question. And, we have all of our things we talk about all the time, and it's just appraisal, it's just second nature. But yes, that's a good point. The lender has to know the value of that home. Okay. And before they're going to give you three, four, $500,000, they want a trusted appraiser to go out there and look at it to make sure that it is worth that money. There's not holes in the floor. The foundation is not falling apart. The roof isn't caving in. It's structurally sound. All of those things go into it. And the appraiser looks at recent sales in the area. And they use all of these factors to determine the current market value of that home. And there's not, listen, there's a big talk also about that, and you can attest to this, conventional versus FHA and versus VA. You know, an appraisal is an appraisal. It really comes down to, is the home sound? I will say though, the government appraisals are a little more strict than a conventional appraisal. If there's a cracked window, if there's a little bit of wood rot, if they see a water spot in the ceiling, things like that, they're going to say you've got to have that repaired before we're going to sign off on this loan. It's usually not big repairs, but I will say, and I'll tell people, if Melanie brings someone to me and they're doing an FHA loan, sometimes I'll ask them to send me pictures. Send me pictures of the house, the outside and the inside. I don't want to see what's on Zillow. I want you to send me real pictures, because if I'll see something, the last thing we want for you as a home buyer is to have to get the appraiser to go out there again after some repairs are made, because you have to pay for that appraiser to come out again. So we want to look at the home up front, make sure it's all structurally sound. If there's a cracked window, we're going to ask that they repair that before the appraiser comes out. Because if they come out and there are issues, they're going to say repair this, this, and this, and they're going to want to come back for another appraisal.
Right. And as a buyer, the inspection process and the repair process is all a negotiation. So when you have an inspection report, the inspector is going to review that with you along with your agent, and you're going to decide what, if anything, you want to ask the seller to repair for you. And so, like Bruce was saying, on certain types of loans, there may be things that have to be repaired in order to qualify for that type of loan. But there are other things that you may just want to ask them to do. But that's all a negotiation process, and that's why we're here to help guide you through that process, so that you know what's realistic. Maybe, is it worth it to ask for this? If they say no, do you still want to buy it, or is it not worth it? And so we're there to guide you through that process, through all of those questions.
And sometimes, if it's just a matter of it needs new screens or whatever, and it's going to cost maybe $800, or there's $1,500 that in repairs, you might Melanie might recommend, hey, I'm just going to ask the seller to reduce the price $1,500, and you take the house and you make the improvements, because you don't really have any guarantee that the seller's going to make the improvements up to your standard, right? So
Right.
It just really depends on what the issues are, and that's all, like she said, it's all part of the negotiation. So let's just recap here quickly, unless there's anything else you want to add to that.
No, I think I'm good.
So if you're coming into the end of this, or you're scrolling and you just happen to stop in, we've been talking for about 30 minutes. We're going to make this available on our YouTube channel so you can see it, rewind it. So we talked about the advantages of owning versus renting. We talked about the pre-approval process, how your credit report affects your buying power, your down payment options, whether it's 3.5%. You don't have to bring 20%. Sometimes if you can bring 20, it's great, but you don't have to. And we talked about down payment assistance. You can actually get a home with down payment assistance. I've seen it happen where everything was paid for, closing costs. We didn't even talk about seller credit. Sometimes the seller can contribute to the closing as well. It's not been very common in the past year because sellers weren't giving away anything. Let's face it, there's not enough inventory, and they're just like, you want to buy the house, I'm not giving you anything. But sometimes there's room for it. And we'll always talk about it. If there's a way to help you save, we're going to work on that on your behalf to help you save that money.
And a lot of times it just depends on the circumstances with the sellers and the buyers. So
that's true. And how do they need to sell? Are they, if it's been on the market a little bit longer, they're willing to pay a little bit. Talked about your closing costs, the different loan programs, what goes into the mortgage payment, and the 6 steps of buying a home. Listen, I know you might be in your car or something. If you have questions, like I said, you're watching this on our social media channels. It's easy to get in touch with us. You're on our YouTube page. Just reach out. We want to answer your questions. Don't be afraid to start the process. Find out if it's going to be a year from now. At least you're taking the steps you need to take. right now to put yourself in a position to, let's say the market changes right near, a lot of people are waiting. Oh, rates are going to drop. I'm waiting for rates to drop. I'm just saying, listen, if you wait for rates to drop, what's going to happen? People are going to rush to the market again. What happens? You know about supply and demand. When people rush to the market, what happens? Prices go up. So you're going to pay more for that house. Now is actually a good time to buy because there's not as many people trying to buy. More opportunity to negotiate, more opportunity to find a home and not lose it to someone who outbids you.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Bruce, I heard a good one that somebody said. And so, if you know, everybody's talking about the interest rates and how they've, gone up, which they are actually normal interest rates right now. They're not crazy like they were at
right.
what, 2018 or something. 20, I forget
Hey,
when it was my parents bought a house.
oh,
But when you're renting, you are paying 100% in interest
that's
on
right.
your rent. So would you rather pay
Absolutely.
5 or 6%, or would you rather pay 100%?
Yeah, because I promise you, in 5 to 8 years from now, if you've been, and I don't know anyone who goes to bed at night living in the home that they own going, I can't believe I'm paying 6% interest or I'm paying
Right.
7%. Nobody does that. You get your payment where you want it to be. And in 5 to 7 years, you look back and you go, wait, I've got $80,000 in equity. What? And that's your money. So because your property value increased and you were paying that mortgage down, you've got money now. You have improved your situation where renting, you're never going to do that. You rent, you move out, you probably still owe them money when you move out. You're not getting your deposit back. And so when you move out of a home, you're taking that with you, and that helps you build wealth, get into your next property. So
Exactly.
thanks again. You can find us here on our social channels. If you got questions, please schedule a consultation with us. Again, it's Melanie Hill Realtor at gmail.com. Melanie Hill Realtor at gmail.com. I'm at bruce.klein at ozlending.com. And we're just here to answer your questions. Home buying should be easy. And if you go out there blindly, you might learn the hard way. So we just want to help you and answer your questions and take the fear out of it. Have I
Yeah.
missed anything?
No, just as a side note, um, I'm here in the Dallas Fort Worth, Texas Metroplex, just in case we have people that are listening in or watching from different parts of the country. But I work for an international company, Coldwell Banker, so I can connect you with agents all over the world. Where I had a friend that was looking in Costa Rica. So, I mean, I have connections with agents in Italy and Portugal. So, really, anywhere that you want to buy, sell, or invest.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just let us know, Bruce and I both have connections
That's a great point.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, I think aren't you guys, you
We're,
guys
I,
have loans in multiple states, right?
I believe we're in 48 states.
Right.
I don't think we're in New York or Hawaii. Yeah, but
But
pretty much
we
anywhere.
probably know people in those places. So we can help you wherever you are.
Absolutely. Well, Melanie, thank you for your time. And
Thank
thank you
you,
guys
Bruce.
for the time to watch this. And again, love to hear from you.
Yeah,
All
get
right.
in touch with us. And thank y'all so much for watching. We look forward to connecting with you and helping you on your home buying journey.
Absolutely. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.